I'll read an excerpt from this book, The Fragrance of Durians. This is actually the first book that I had published. But I don't read the first book. In the same year, I published a few other books. Now, this story, Farewell Tenant, examines the relationship between a manager of a company and the lowest of the lowest rank in the company, which is a Jaga. It was by then quite dark on the island as Subramaniam led Marcus along the breakwater and then down to the beach where the sampan was tied to a massive fallen trunk. The moon and stars provided good guiding light. But as expected of a watchman, Subramaniam came equipped with a bright torchlight. Marcus took off his shoes and socks and rolled up his trousers to his knees, and the two men dragged the boat down to the rising tides. Being experienced seafarers, they had no problem in quickly settling themselves comfortably in the small craft. There was only one oar, so they took turns in rowing until Subramaniam found his favorite spot. He already had hook, line, and single in the boat, and there was a small bottle of leftover worms, some of them still struggling in water to keep alive. Good place to fish here, Tuan. You want to fish? You go ahead. Marcus laid on his back, studying the stars. As a sailor, he had learned a few things about them. Always look for the North Star if you are lost, he was told, and you'll never be alone. He was never afraid of being alone. Tell me about your family, said Marcus. Oh, my family are all in India, Tuan. How many children do you have? 11. No, 13. 9 girls and 4 boys. Some of them are already married. Don't you want to go back to see them? No good, Tuan. Every time I went back to India and then came back to Singapore, my wife got pregnant. It's happened so many times already. Maybe when they're all married, I will go back. Shh, I think there's a fish biting the worm. He pulled in the line. Apa itu? No fish. What about you, Tuan? How many children you got? Only one. I have a daughter. How old? She's coming on 4. Very young, huh? Marcus felt guilty about not spending enough time with his daughter. There were excuses though. Both his wife and he worked, so they left her in the charge of his wife's parents, seeing the child only once a week during the weekend, and sometimes for only half a day. That Subramaniam never saw his children for many years was no consolation for Marcus, for there was no comparison between him and the Jaga. Any fish? No luck, Tuan. I'll keep quiet, maybe some fish will come. Don't worry, Tuan. If they want to come, they will come. The boat rocked gently in the sea. It was different from the huge tanker that Marcus had once sailed. Then he was always high up above the ocean, looking down and wondering what the deep he held, whereas now he could feel the water right up to his elbow as he hung his hand out. It was kind of warm, and he liked the intimacy. Once again, his romance with the sea was revived. He sat up, tilting the sampan clumsily, took off his shirt, pulled down his trousers and underwear, and jumped into the water. Subramaniam was astonished. Be careful, Tuan, maybe there are hantu in the water. Marcus swam like he never did, or like he never had, bobbing up and down, conscious that he should not stray too far from the boat. The water wrapped round him like a warm blanket, and the moon shone on benignly to give just enough light for him to see himself in the embrace of the sea. The sensation was titillating as the current left at his nakedness, and he felt his whole being rekindled with a freshness he found only in nature, and a zest for living forever. The sampans rocked from side to side in rhythmic synchronization. Subramaniam pulled in the line and stopped fishing, watching anxiously as the head of Marcus bobbed up and down. He kept very still, moving only with the tides, as if afraid to disturb the harmony. The approach of a motorboat, making a loud noise as it cut across the water, caused the sampan to sway violently. The sea became angry, rumbling underneath and rising furiously. Subramaniam looked anxiously for Marcus and was relieved to hear him breathing as his head came up above the water near the sampan. "Are you okay, Tuan?" "I'm all right." The motorboat came alongside. A dazzling light fell upon Subramaniam and Marcus. "Police patrol," said a voice. "What are you doing here?" "Fishing. I am the Jaga Ambrani." The light shifted completely to Marcus. "He is my boss, my manager." "Your name, please," said the voice. Marcus Liu. "I work on Pulau Brani. I'm a marine engineer." "I suggest, sir, you get out of the water, get dressed, and return to the island. It can be very dangerous swimming at night." The rowboat turned and sped away, again rocking the sampan violently as Marcus held on to its side. "What time is it, Maniam?" "Maybe 1 o'clock." "I guess we'd better get back to the island. It's too late now for me to call for a boat to go home. I'll rest in the office and take the first ferry across in the morning." Subramaniam helped Marcus into the sampan. "You are a good boss, Tuan. Very kind. Serious, no joke. I mean it. I really mean it. All the other bosses never talk to me. They look down on the Jaga." Subramaniam alone managed to oar all the way to the shore. "Can I ask you a favor, Tuan?" At last, the bombshell Marcus should have known that this was coming. He simply glared at Subramaniam without saying a word. "A very small favor, Tuan. Mother isn't dead. She's alive, fit as a fiddle." Reverend Anthony was dumbfounded. "It's not my fault, Padre. 1 minute she was lying there dying, and the next minute she's up and about, like nothing dreadful has happened. It's as if she's determined to wait for you." By the way, Reverend Anthony received a call that, from someone saying that the mother was dying. And he goes around to the hospital and he administers the last rites, And he came to the hospital, late, because he was out playing golf. And we always wonder whether that was the right thing to do. When somebody is dying, he's out playing golf. So he came very late and he met up with this woman whose mother was supposed to be dying. "Praise the Lord," exclaimed Reverend Anthony, much to the amusement of Joan's friend. "So how is she now?" "She couldn't be any better, Padre." "Good. I'm so happy that the Lord had heard your prayer and answered your miracle. Your mother is a good woman, and the Lord knows that." "But you don't understand, Padre," protested Joan, gesticulating wildly. The puzzled pastor turned to the nonchalant Maria for an explanation, but she continued to display a deadpan face. "She may be a good woman. All right, she is a good woman, but you don't know what she's put me through." "Indeed, I don't understand. You don't seem upset and distressed when we should be rejoicing. What's the matter, Joan?" "I've said you wouldn't understand, Padre. I was broken this morning when the doctors told me there's nothing they could do to save her. So I cried and cried. As you know, I looked frantically all over for you. Failing that, I got a priest with Maria's help to say the last rites. Then went about arranging the funeral. The wake was to be at the St. Joseph's parlor, the one at Victoria Street near St. Anthony's Convent. Don't say it, Padre. I know that St. Joseph is a Catholic church, but anyone can use the parlor. I told some close friends and relatives, and we all cried. I ordered the flowers, remembering how fond Mother was of the little white marguerites. I got myself a black lace dress, as it wouldn't be proper wearing anything else. I had to do all this, not because I enjoy doing it, but because I had to do it. And now what has happened? I had to go through it all over again, cancelling the funeral arrangements, calling up friends and relatives, much to my embarrassment." "Surely, Joan, it's not too much doing all that. But what matters is that your mother's alive. Your friends and relatives will only be too happy to know that." "You don't understand, Padre. No, you don't. I had to go through all that, not my mother. I know it sounds terrible for me to say that, but it's a fact." Now, Joan, she's your mother, isn't she? Would you rather that she were dead?" Silence. Almost deathly. The pastor looked from Joan to Maria as if for support, but the bewildered Maria simply gazed at Joan, mouth agape. For a while, nobody deemed it necessary to speak. as hospital patients and visitors shuffled and clattered past them. The pastor had known Joan and her mother for many years, ever since she was a child in Margaret's kindergarten, where he presided as the school's governor. Then Joan, an only child, had already lost her father, and Elizabeth single-handedly brought her up with unquestioned strength and faith in a God whom she revered with all her heart. It was God's will, as she had told many a friend. But in Reverend Anthony's mind, it was Elizabeth's resoluteness with, of course, the help of the Almighty above. I'm sorry, Padre. I guess I'm too upset to talk any sense. You see, this isn't the first time it has happened. Of course, I'm glad that she's alive, but don't tell me it was supposed to be otherwise. You don't understand the stress that I had to go through each time the doctors were wrong about her. How could they make a mistake like that? Because they are not God, Joan, and your mother, I assure you, is very special in God's eyes. I don't think I can go through this again. Honestly, Padre, I cannot take it anymore. Indeed, it would have been easier dealing with the dead than the living. Reverend Anthony picked at his watch and said, "Why don't we go in and see your mother?" Okay. I'll just read a very short one from this other book, which is Wives, Lovers, and Other Women. Title, maybe, I don't know. And now that, right, Lena is putting all these goals up here. Okay. Page 12. A story that's called An Honorable Wife. Let me tell you what happened when I visited my boss at his house, he went on. This is a conversation between him and me, all right? Okay. He's a very strict man. I like him because he controls his staff very well. Outsiders may think that the workers are afraid of him, but in reality they respect him. At home, he is clearly the boss as well, no doubt about it. When he wanted a cup of coffee, he just snapped his fingers, said coffee, and his wife brought it to him. I'm not saying that there is anything wrong with that. It is a traditional Korean way, no different from other societies, I think, that man rules and that woman serves. But in my house, I bring my wife coffee. He pursed his lips tightly together and nodded assertively to convince me. I thought there was pride in his deliberate reversal of the man and wife roles. It was getting strange, not that I disagreed with what he was doing, but that he made an issue of telling me. "You're a good husband," I said. "I don't think so," he retorted immediately. "I try to be one, but I don't think that I am one." He gulped down his beer. "I like my wife to control my actions," he said as an afterthought. "Really, I mean it." Oh boy, I thought. This is getting stranger by the minute. From what I heard about Korean men and their wives, Mr. and Mrs. H.S. Kim were definitely far from being typical. He noticed my awkward silence, lit a cigarette and explained, "I feel good when I do things for my wife. That way, I can tell if I am doing enough to satisfy her." All right. This is just talking about this character and then what happened to him. You got to read the story. Okay. To the last one. Okay, I'll do one more, which is Passion is the title of the story. Just a couple of pages. Madame Dubois was silent. She could see demons dancing in his eyes. I would hasten to say that none of these women liked what he saw. And I expected you to be different, but no, you're much the same. You disappoint me. You disappoint me. Oh, do I? I thought you loved women. Don't I? It's an unexpected moment of frenzy. He took her into his arms and planted a kiss firmly upon her lips. "No, you don't love women," she said, breaking away and hating the surprise. "You hate them. And you hate them so. Why bother painting them?" You asked to be painted, Madame Dubois. Oh, you're evil. She stormed towards the door and stepped outside, descending the stairs quickly and noisily. In the street, she walked by the wall, which was covered with graffiti. The nude figure of a woman was still intact. Somewhere in the middle of the road, a man, not a policeman, was directing the traffic. He was grinning, very earnest about what he was doing and obviously enjoying it. Passion, mused Madame Dubois. So it was with Renoir and Picasso. Although the results were different, the execution was the same. And so it was with Mock too. Madame Dubois raced back up the street and into the alley where cement floor radiated the heat of the midday sun. She climbed up the stairs hastily, past an old tenant struggling to keep his balance on the dark steps, pushed open the door and saw Mock sitting on a wooden chair in deep contemplation of his work. He did not look surprised and ignored her as she walked quietly towards him, stood behind him and cast a shadow on the painting. The colors were bold, loud, vibrant, and confrontational, and the strokes were precise and executed with vigor and force. Madame Dubois realized that she had been looking for the eyes, nose, mouth, and ears in the right normal conventional places, and, as a consequence, had missed the very essence of the creation. The strength of the painting lay in its deliberate, definitive, but seeming distortion. It was not a silent piece of work, but one with body and soul and screaming with a voice. As she studied it more and more, she began to see more of the painter than herself in it. His cutting cynicism, an embittered soul, skeptical and most probably embattled, and above all, an honest, impassioned struggle to be himself. Madame Dubois made a cursory inspection of the other paintings that stood against the wall. They were Mock's earlier works and clearly amateurish by comparison. That, so-called portrait of her, she was convinced was his most passionate piece of work by far. There was no reason to doubt that she was, in no small measure, the subject of his passion. Thank you.
Thank you.